Welcome patrons. It was pointed out to me that with the Nations of Thedas video, I never actually touched on Orzammar. So let's fix that. Now this video isn't going to be about the old Dwarven Empire, but rather focusing on Orzammar itself. So things are going to be a bit short in the history section, and when I get to the Dwarven Empire as a whole, we can go way more deep into that. So anyway, Orzammar. History. In legend, the Dwarven Empire was founded by 7 brothers. The Tig of Orzammar is named after Orzammar, the brother who founded the mining caste and whose original mines would become the city itself. In the early days, Orzammar was the home of the mining and the smith caste. The Tig was considered one of the Great Ones compared to smaller Tigs that dotted the Thedas underground. In negative 1170 Ancient, things would change when King Endrin Stonehammer decided to move the Dwarven capital from Kal Shirak to Orzammar. There are a bunch of things factored into this decision, including the chaos of Tevinter wanting to get closer to other nations in Thedas who were also open to trade, and Orzammar having a natural entrance to the surface. So that's a story for another day, but anyway. Soon after, the first bite would hit the dwarves hard. Near the end, all but 4 Tigs were lost to the Darkspawn. In negative 15 Ancient, Paragon Adugan, in an effort to keep his people alive, shut down almost all the tunnels leading to the deep roads, which sealed off the other 3 Tigs in the deep and leaving them for dead. While the actions may have killed many, and Paragon Adugan never forgave himself for it, it was praised as being the action that saved Orzammar from the fate of the rest of the Empire. Ever since, Orzammar has stayed mostly unchanged under the Frostback Mountains, keeping peace with nations topside by the use of lyrium trade and other Dwarven-specific goods. Geography. It's sort of hard to talk about the geography of Orzammar because it's just under the Frostback Mountains. So let's just talk about the city itself. Much like any Dwarven city, hidden air vents keep the Tig filled with breathable air. The Tig itself is built in a C shape, with the royal palace located in the center of that C. As a whole, Orzammar wraps around a natural lava vent, which both lights and heats the area. There are 3 levels to Orzammar. The Diamond Quarter is the upper level and is home to the noble caste. From its balconies, you can look down upon the rest of the city and probably laugh, or something that nobles do. Here is also where the royal palace and the Shapewrit are held. The Commons is the largest and centermost part of the Tig. Most of the other castes live and do work on this level. It's supposed to also have a tiered system to it as well, with higher tiers holding the warrior caste all the way down to the servant caste, which are just above the pools of lava. The proving grounds also branch off from here, and merchants litter the area. Many passages of the Commons also lead to mines that are worked on by the population, and are often heavily guarded. The lowest portion, which is now called Dust Town, used to be where the old palace of Orzammar was, but was likely abandoned when Orzammar was made the new capital of the Dwarven Empire. Now is just home to the casteless, with no other castes entering the area. Currently, the criminal organization known as the Carta is in control of Dusttown. Politics. Orzammar is ruled by a king or queen, which is appointed and not based on bloodlines, although that being said, the Idukan clan has held the throne for almost 400 years. Beside the king is an assembly, whose members are known as Deshers. Their main job is to suggest new laws, and then the rest vote for it to pass. If something were to pass, the king also has the option to veto it. Like kings, Deshers hold their position for life, and if one were to die, which happens fairly frequently, a position needs to be filled, one must be nominated by a current member and receive at least 1/3 of the vote to join. Despite Orzammar publicly banning any dwarf that goes to live on the surface, the Orzammar economy actually depends heavily on the surface-based Dwarven Merchants Guild. The guild is responsible for regulating trade between the Tig and the rest of Thedas, although the king and the rest of the Dwarven Assembly deny this, saying that they are the actual ones in control. On the side of this is the Carta, a criminal organization that also has ties with surface dwarves. Those who do not have the connections or will to deal with the Merchants Guild are forced to deal with the Carta. While the Carta causes a lot of trouble for Orzammar, the Assembly secretly allows it to happen, because the Tig relies too heavily on what the Carta brings in, and to truly get rid of them would collapse the economy, so it stays. Culture. Something that isn't talked about much in games is that Orzammar's closeness to the Darkspawn threat has actually physically affected those who live there. Many of those who encounter Darkspawn often have infertility issues, and as many of the Dwarven population has come into contact with them, the population is slowly declining. Dwarven society is based on a caste system. This in itself is pretty lengthy, so if you want to know more about that, it has its own video, which I've linked down below. The dwarves take great pride in their works, either it be weapons, armors, or their buildings, but their pride is well earned, as dwarven works are sought after all over Thedas. If you had to sum up Dwarven society in one word, that word would be honor. Everything comes back to honor to you and your family. Great works, murders, wars, trade, everything stems back to gaining honor. And if you had to pick a second word, it would be past, as so much of their actions are looking towards restoring what was in their society. While the Dwarven Empire of old was massive and wonderful, many in Orzammar believe that the way to regain that empire is to continue their way of life as it would have been done centuries ago, which is why little has changed in the Taig. Religion. Keeping with the Dwarven traditions of the Old Empire, Orzammar believes in paragons and the stone. The stone is literally all of the stone around them, personified to a motherly figure that watches over them. The stone holds the spirits of the ancestors, the collection of all the Dwarven dead that guides the living, and their will is spoken by the results of approving, or paragons. The phrase of becoming one with the stone isn't figurative either, as it also references that the Dwarven people bury their dead under the rock, and those not buried will not be able to join with the stone. But not all of the dead become one with the stone. Those who have turned their backs will be rejected by it. Paragons are thought to be the living voices of the ancestors, people who have greatly helped the society of Dwarves in Orzammar and have brought honor to their people. Those who are deemed paragons are treated like gods and brought up to the noble caste. As we see it, the Dwarves do not exactly have services towards the ancestors and the paragons, but do work to honor them. Some will visit statues, clean them up, say some words or something like a prayer to honor those who have gone to the stone. But the Dwarves do not worship their ancestors or the stone, but really focus on honor them, which in return, the Dwarven people believe they are given strength. Dress. Obviously, how one dress depends on what caste you have. Casteless wear rags and whatever they can get their hands on, while nobles wear fine silks. As violence over one's honor is fairly common, a lot of nobles end up working chainmail and armor into their fine clothing as a way to protect themselves if a fight breaks out. In design scene and game, a lot of Dwarven clothing likes to rely heavily on reds, teals, golds, and squares. And lines, kind of geometric shapes in general. Casteless are also branded from birth with the symbol. As they grow older and probably a bit rebellious, some casteless will actually choose to add on to the symbol with more tattoos. Non-casteless Dwarves find this shocking as it makes it seem like they are proud to be casteless. Food. A large part of Dwarven cuisine are nugs. They are common to the deep roads and they're pretty easy to catch because they just kind of walk right up to you because they're so cute. For those who are lower caste, nugs are the only source of meat available to them, although as the nug is supposed to be so delicious, even the nobles eat them. Some of the higher castes also keep them as pets, and that's been a trend that has been growing popular in Orlais as well. Deep mushrooms are also eaten, although great care comes in picking which ones are to be eaten, as they may contain traces of the blight and might be poisonous. And speaking of that, perhaps not exactly belonging here, poisons are pretty common in Orzammar, mostly as a form of settling honor. Relationship with other races. Elves. Elves and really any other race are rarely seen in Orzammar, to the point that if one arrives, they're often stared at. Beside that, there is little to say on the elven people in Orzammar. Qunari. Being so far away from anywhere that was touched by the Qunari Wars, Orzammar has little opinions on the Qunari. At least that's what we've heard of. Humans. Being the only place that is able to mine lyrium, Orzammar makes much of its money and supplies on the trade with the Chantry, and the Chantry uses lyrium for both their legions of Templars and mages. As for individual nations, all nations seem to have a pretty positive relationship with Orzammar, mostly because they have to. Orzammar is unique in what it can trade to the rest of Thedas. Ferelden seems to have the closest relationship with Orzammar as of late, even helping in wars that the nations have fought over the years, which this is all probably due because Orzammar is in Ferelden's borders. And that, dear patrons, are the basics to the Dwarven city of Orzammar. Still lingering questions, proof that I'm wrong, comments about your own fan theory? Feel free to tweet me at @Gildathon on Twitter or send a PM to user Gillanon on Reddit. Dress your all.